my kids. Okay. Today our topic is French Revolution and idea of the nation. So did you ever heard about this French Revolution? Anybody knows about French Revolution? Okay. You guys heard about France, right? France is a place in Europe. So this French Revolution is also known as the mother of revolution. So we know so many n number of social revolutions, cultural, technological, environmental revolutions, n number of revolutions was there. So for every revolution, French Revolution is known as the mother of revolution. And it began in the 19th century. Okay. I'll tell you one story. We'll learn like a story. See, so during the 19th century, so we are in a time machine. We are traveling to France. Okay, now we are traveling to France. Okay, it is the year 1789. It's very easy to remember the date year 1789. Sorry, it's the year 1789 because one 17 to 1 789 comes together, right? 789. So 1789 is the time. It is a year which French Revolution happened. So let's step into the time machine and we'll travel to France in 1780. Okay, we are seeing the France, the kingdoms, the palace, the poor people in and around the palace. Okay, France was a very rich in culture and tradition, but poor in justice. You'll get to know what I mean. Okay, at that time, the Louis XVI was the king of that particular kingdom. So he lived in a palace, so grand, and it had hundreds of rooms. But outside the palace gates, mostly people barely had bread to eat. He has a wife. Okay. What she used to tell is like, if people are not having bread to eat, let them eat cake. That much careless she is. That much she's not. They are living their own life. They're not care about the people around them. They not care about the poor around them. So it was started in the 19th century. So there, what was there? So the nationalism emerged. Why nationalism emerged? Because of these things. They considered French Revolution was not a protest. It was a huge earthquake that shook the world that time. Okay. So it questioned everything. It questioned everything. The king, the God-given power. So they believe that the king is like it's like God. It's a God-given power to them. So it's the king, God-given power, that who should control the country. So it was not just a France story. It becomes the everyone story in and around the world. Okay. So after all this revolution, what happened? The end result was the change of emergence of nation state. Change of emergence of nation state in place of multinational dynastic empires of Europe. So the concept and practices were modern state in which the centralized power exercised sovereign control over a clearly defined territory. So they attained their freedom through this such revolution, only forged through the struggles, the actions of leaders, and the like common people only they attained that freedom. So when we're talking about the French Revolution, the idea of the nation, we're talking about the first clear expression of nationalism came with French Revolution in 1789. Okay, the France was fully fledged territorial state in 1789 under the rule of an absolute monarchy. So many political and constitutional changes happened there, right? So the revolution, it led to the transfer of sovereignty from the monarchy to the body of French citizens. Later, it was like from the sovereignty, or transfer of sovereignty from the monarchy. What is meant by monarchy? The king itself is ruling, where the citizens not having any voice, where the citizens are allowed only to obey the rules and regulations of the king. So it was from the monarchy to sovereignty, it transferred. So the revolution proclaimed that it was the people who would henceforth constitute the nation and shape its destiny. So people get the chance to shape its their country, shape the cultural, shape the values, shape the rules, shape the everything. They get the chance to, the citizens gets the chance to do. This revolution claims that. So from the very beginning only, the French Revolution has introduced various measures that would that could create a sense of collective identity among the French people. Okay, the first idea was it is their fatherland and the citizen. It is the ideas of fatherland and citizen emphasize the notion of united community enjoy equal rights under constitution. So, as we're talking about India, India is having a constitution, so many constitutional values we have, right? Right to equality, right of speech of freedom and expression, like that. The idea of the fatherland as citizen, which brings them the equal rights, emphasize the notion to united a community enjoying the equal rights under a constitution. One constitution, under that constitution, they should get a equal right for that. So the French society, how they were before, no? So we were talking about the story. So when the Louis XVI was ruling the country, so it was coming up, right? So it was coming, going on. These things were happening. The poor always poor. The rich people were there. It's all about the revolution was all about against the feudalism in the country. It's all about the feudalism against the feudalism in the country. So what was the French society before the revolution? Right. Okay. You just imagine a huge pyramid. Okay. You just imagining a huge pyramid. At the very top, okay, at the very top, it's a huge pyramid. At the very top, we have the clergy. Clergy in the sense the priest of the church. It is just the 1% of the church. Okay. Then just below that, in the in, pyramid, first one is clergy. The second one is nobles. Nobles and nobody, they are the landlords. They're the landlords, they are about 2%. They are about 2%. Then at the very bottom, carrying the entire country on their shoulders. Okay. They're the very middle class, the third estates. They are known as the third estates. They are peasants, workers, the middle class. They are the 97% of the population. And here is the shocking part you're going to hear. Only the third estates paid the taxes. Only the third estates were paying the taxes. Okay. The rich and powerful paid nothing. The third estate had no voice, no rights, and no escape from poverty. That's why the very beginning of this French Revolution, the revolutionaries were what they did. They introduced the various measures what to create a sense of collective identity among the French people, because 97 of the people were they considered as the third estate people, right? So they emphasize the notion of united community enjoying the equal rights under a constitution, which means the third estate was paying the taxes and they were not having any no voice, no rights, and no escape from the poverty. Then what they did? A new tricolor flag. They introduced a new flag to the France. Okay. That replaced the formal royal standard. In a state general was elected by the body of active citizens and renamed the National Assembly. Okay. What they did, like we have parliament, Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, like that. No, we'll have this parliament elections, Lok Sabha elections and all, no, MP and MS. Like that, what they did from the monarchical rule to sovereignty, what they did, this estates general was elected. One estate general, they elected the body of active citizens. The French citizens. Okay, the French citizens, a group of body of active citizens elected the estate general. Okay, and they renamed that as National Assembly. And they knew having they composed oaths taken, martyrs commemorate, all in the name of nation. So that unity they brought. Okay, you see here a centralized administrative. They said the tricolor flag is that it's blue, white, and red. So then what they later did is centralized the administrative system they put, right? And formulated uniform laws within its territory. So revenue, laws, justice, for everything, they bought a for everything they made a constitution and they started working on that. They obeyed that rules. they bring the unity, they bring the equality over the nation. See, internal customs duties and dues were abolished and uniform system weights and measures were adopted. So what everyone in the nation who all are there, they all have to pay the taxes. They all have been equal rights. So regional dialects were discouraged. French. So to bring up the unity, what they did, the regional dialects they discouraged and they took French as it is spoken and written in Paris, and it becomes the common language for all the nation. Then the next one is the revolutionaries further declared that it was a mission and the destiny's mission was that like later what they did is like they liberate the people from Europe, people of Europe from despotism. What is mean by liberate the peoples of Europe from despotism? It means they refers to the idea of freeing people from oppressive, absolute rulers, right? They were like the Napoleon Bonaparte, Simon Bolivar. These are the like these revolutionaries. You heard about these revolutionaries? Okay, these are the revolutionaries people who they although they eventually become the emperor, these their ideas was to liberate the peoples of Europe from despotism. So the revolutionaries the revolutionaries' next mission was to destiny of the French nation to liberate the peoples of Europe from despotism. Despotism in the sense they want to from the Europe people, the Europe continent countries, other peoples are also there, other countries are also there. So they want to liberate, they want to take them out, they want to pull them out from the despotism. They want to they want to free people from this oppressive, this absolute rulers. They want to take them out. So what, in other words, what they help the other peoples of Europe to become nations. So these news work it spreads in and around the world, in and around France. It reached to different cities of Europe. Then what happened? Then the students, the students like you, the students in the colleges, and the other members of educated middle class began setting up Jacobin clubs. They forming many clubs. The one of the major clubs was Jacobin clubs, and their activities and campaigns. What it happens? Their activities and campaigns prepared the way for French armies, which moved to Holland, Belgium, Switzerland, and much way of Italy in the 1790s. Those who are gone to in the 1790s. Like their army was fully flushed to there, and they also tried to bring back the freedom for other states also. So with the outbreak of this revolutionary wars, the French armies began to carry the idea of nationalism abroad. So with this ideology only, what they did, so they started bringing the nationalism, the carry of nationalism, they flourished to abroad also. So within the wide swath of territory that came under his control, Napoleon set about introducing many of the reforms that he had already introduced in France. So Napoleon was the leader over there, okay, by that time. So what happened? What Napoleon was introduced in France, so it was getting a wider range of responses. So what he did, he was giving, so within a wide swath of territory that came under his control since Napoleon. When Napoleon came back for the rule. So when Napoleon was there, what he did, he introduced many reforms. Reforms in the sense he modernized things, he unified things, he promoted progress, he made a centralization, standardization, secularism, all these things. Okay, so these are the things he introduced. So he introduced many reforms that he already introduced in France. Through a written monarchy, Napoleon had destroyed the democracy in France. Okay, but when he's come to the administrative field, he had an incorporated revolutionary principle. He had a very incorporated revolutionary principle in order to make the whole system more rational, efficient. Which means he had a very lasting impact on France and Europe. His revolutionary principles had a lasting incorporation of revolutionary principles had a lasting impact on France and Europe. which shaped the modern institutions, laws, and values. So, in the Civil Code, which is that is known as the Napoleon Code in 1804, this when the Civil Code came with what all things were there with all the privileges based on birth they got. It established the equality before law, secured the right to property. These are the three things from his what civil code. He gives this revolutionary principle. In his revolutionary principles, these are the shaped forms he given to the country. So when it comes to the Dutch Republic in Switzerland, in Italy and Germany, what Napoleon did is like Napoleon simplified administrative divisions, abolished the feudal system. This because of the feudal system only these revolutions happens, right? So he entirely abolished the feudal system. He freed the peasants from self-dom and manorial dues. So these kind of taxations, he freed the peasants, means the third estate people. And in the towns too, he guild restrictions were removed, transport and communication systems were improved, persons, artisans, workers, and new businessmen enjoyed a new form of freedom. So for the citizens, what they were earning for, what were they are earning for, they got that back, right? So when it comes to businessmen and small scale producers of goods, what it began to, they realized that uniform laws come kind of maybe in our country it can be like we have to follow the copyright, we have to do the consumer law like that. They also have to have the uniform laws they got. Then the standard weight and measures for everything, for money, for the grains, maybe for all these things, and a common national currency. Only one national currency they put. Indian currency is rupee, right? Like that. For France, they got one national currency. These facilitated the movement and exchange of goods and capitals from one region to another. So the exporting and importing also was possible through these things. So, however, in the areas conquered, the reactions of the local population to French rule were mixed. So we conquered some places, like or they conquered some places. So the when we are implementing something, it got mixed up with them. So initially in many places such as Holland, Switzerland, as well as in certain cities like Brussels, Mainz, Milan, and Warsaw, the French armies were welcomed the Garbigans of liberty. But the initial enthusiasm soon turned to hostility. It became clear that the new administrative arrangements did not go hand in hand to with political freedom. So they got it like that when they are getting something, it is not going with hand to hand in political freedom, right? So you guys are getting something. Okay, this government is implementing some law. So the very next government, when they are coming back, it is not going properly. Like so, it was very clear that with all these examples, it's very clear that the new administrative arrangements did not go hand in hand with political freedom. So what all things happens? Again, the increased taxation, censorship. They were forced to conscription into French armies required to conquer the rest of Europe. So they want to conquer the other countries of Europe. So they were forced, the people, the citizens of France were forced to get into the French army. So they seeing this as the outweigh of the advantages of administrative changes. The idea of French Revolution. Okay, the basic idea of French Revolution. So when I'm talking about French Revolution, I stopped the story here in with the third estate people. Like so, by 1799, the king called a meeting of the estate. Okay, but once again, the third estate was ignored. Furious, they walked out and gathered in a tennis. Okay, where they took an old oath they would not leave until France had a new constitution. So this tennis court oath became the first real step towards revolution. They considered this tennis court oath as the first step towards this mother of revolution, the French Revolution. So on July 14, 1789, same year, July 14, the anchor, the citizens explored, the people stormed the Bastille. It's a prison that symbolized a royal oppression. They wanted weapons, but more than that, they want justice. The Bastille fell, and within it, okay, the fear of the king's power. Even today, France celebrates Bastille Day as a symbol of freedom. So Soon the chaos spread across the countryside. The farmers and peasants attacked the homes of nobles and destroyed old documents that kept them in poverty. This period, panic was called the Great Fear. So that by that time they got a very bad fear, like okay, this much cities and this much crowd, this much people are attacking them. So they're getting up fear. So that period of panic was later known as the Great Fear. So the revolution was no longer just in the cities, it was in the every corner of France. So later what happened? The National Assembly and Declaration of the Rights of the Man comes up. Okay, to calm down the storm, the National Assembly made some big changes. They ended the feudalism, which meant no more privileges to nobles. They created a powerful document, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen. But even though that it is only for the men, okay, men are born free and equal. Everyone has the right of liberty, property, and security. No one should be punished unfairly. So then later, the role of women came up. Okay, the role of women came up because in the previous one where they left out of this equality, new equality, right? So the women were the left out of this new equality. So what they demanded the rights for women too. So she wrote some one girl, lady was there. She wrote the Declaration of the Rights of Women, but her ideas were considered to be too bold and sadly she was executed. Still, many women took part in protests, including the famous Women March to Versailles, where they forced the king to return to Paris. So the role of women had ended there. So the last one is going to be the France become a republic. The royal family tried to escape, but they were caught. People now saw the king as a traitor in 1917. Sorry, in 1792, France became a republic with no king at all. So remember, in 1789, the revolution started. By 1792, the France became a fully republic country with no king at all. The next year, King Louis XVI was tried and executed. His wife, Mary Antoinette, was also beheaded. For the first time in France, belonged to his people, not a monarch. So this is the like basic of French Revolution, the starting and how they got. Then later, after a long, the rise of Napoleon. Napoleon had been there. So we talk about him, right? So under his State territory and all this, he got so much things. So after the years of chaos, the people were exhausted. They needed stability. That's when a young, brilliant general named Napoleon Bonaparte rose to power. So in 1799, he took control and later declared himself Emperor of France. So while Napoleon ended the revolution, he spread his ideas across Europe and brought many so many reforms, like I told it, like secularism, all those things he brought up. So, what is the achievements of the revolution? When we are talking about the achievements of the revolution, it ended absolutely with monarchy. It gave birth to equality and liberty, and the concept of monarchy and and the concept of democracy, but it ended with absolute monarchy. So it inspired a revolution in other countries. Then only it's American Revolution, all those things comes up. So it showed that the ordinary people have the power to change the history. So when you come to the conclusion, the French Revolution wasn't just a war or protest. It was a just complete transformation of society. It began with hunger and injustice and ended with new ideas that shaped the modern. So it proved one thing: when people demanded freedom, even kings must listen. So this is all about the French Revolution, like from 1789 to until they got republic. Then later, when Napoleon Bonaparte came up, then himself becomes the emperor of France, and it becomes ended in a monarchical rule. But it all says about the revolution. It all says about the people can change the history. So this is the basics of it's the basics and in of French Revolution. If you have any doubts, feel free to contact me. Any doubts, you can ask me also. Okay, thank you. Have a great day.